So I hope you guys have the text. Let me know if you face any difficulty with the text, like having the text or having it in front of you. So Hollowman, and from Hollowman I gave you this question of comment on or critically appreciate Hollowman. So I'll try to keep the discussion in lines with how to go about critically appreciating a poem. This is a big poem, this is a lengthy poem, deep, dense poem, and to critically appreciate it within like 200, within like 600 to 650 odd words might be a little difficult. So we need to practice in order to bring down our total words to the permissible limits. I think you are given some kind of limits. So I will be pointing out the aspects of a uh, of of a critical appreciation. What are the things that you are supposed to have a look at while you are doing a critical appreciation? So I have a structure in my mind. I have a structure that I followed from one of the books while I was doing my graduation, and I think this is one way to approach critical appreciation, or it is one way in which we can critically appreciate a poem. So I'm typing it out in the chat box for you. So you can say that the first para could be an introduction. What I mean by introduction is like, when was this poem written, of course by whom, where was it first published, was it published in an anthology, or was it published in a little magazine, or was it published in some other format. So and when was it first published, when was it written, and when was it published. So these things will be fed into the paragraph of introduction. Okay, and then we can second paragraph could be about the theme of the poem. What is the theme of the poem? What does the poem do? I mean, what does the poem talk about? What is the, I mean, a poem can have a number of themes, but it usually has a central theme. Okay, so second is theme. Third, according to me, is the tone of the poet. How is the poet saying certain things? Is he or she satirical? Is he or she complacent? Is he or she sad? Is he or she jubilant, happy, joyous, not sure, ambiguous, confused, so on and so forth? So what is the tone? What is the dominant tone? I mean, it might so happen that in a single poem there could be a number of tones. The tones can change throughout the poem. The poem will not carry the same tone throughout. I mean, that is unnatural in a poem of this length. So there might be variations in the tone. You can catch that as well. So you can say that, so from line number this to this we can see this dominant tone, whereas from line this to this we can see that the tone has changed to that of this. Okay, so this is the format in which you can talk or write about the poem. Next, according to me, is diction. Diction is the choice of words. What kind of words have been used here? But why are we doing it? We are doing it, we are trying to look into the choice of words. We are trying to look into the diction of the poem because from there we can understand the tone. It is the tone will not come out of the blue. It is from the diction, it is from the words that we are hearing or reading that we can understand what is the tone of the poem. Here the tone has nothing to do with the tone in which we speak, okay, but here tone means the attitude of the poet as it comes out from the choice of the words that we will be noting. Now this could be confusing because which words are we supposed to choose? More interestingly, more importantly, why those words? Well, you see, in a poem there will be a number of choices for us, but like in any situation we bring out what is the most important aspect of a particular situation. We try to bring out what is the most important thing. We try to bring out the gist. We try to bring out the substance of anything that we are saying or anything that we are dealing with. We do not give the same importance to each and every word in a poem, in a discussion, in a conversation. We take up the words which might match our agenda or which stands out for its unusualness or its unique character, or simply because it is sonorous, simply because it creates a kind of a music. So you need to underline, you need to find out which words stand out of the poem, which words align themselves with the theme and tone of the poem. And you can also talk about the words which are juxtaposed to the theme and the tone, because like a man, like a person, a poem can be self-contradictory also. So there could be words which stand against the already dominant thematic framework of the poem, or there could be words which actually help carry out the theme, execute the theme, or build the theme as if from the ground up. Okay, so diction is a very important point. Then I believe another thing comes up, that is the structure of the poem. By structure I mean the intellectual structure, like the plot, like how the poem moves, like what is the pattern of the poem. Okay, this is strictly about how the poem is built. Does it begin in the middle? Does it begin in the end? Is it a reminiscence? Is it like in the case of Marina, it was a dramatic monologue, so it began in the middle, it began abruptly. Does it give an introduction, as in Hollow Man, Mr. Coots is dead? That's an introduction, that's a different structure. Also we can talk about the graphic structure of the poem. If you keep the poem not vertically but horizontally, say across the table, you could see these lines imitating the lines of, say, a musical instrument, where we can see the beats in green, red, yellow, whatever, up and down towers. Like if you watch IPL, if you watch cricket, then we can find these towers of runs in according to balls in the matches, balls in the overs. In the similar way, the structure of the poem can also be read, can be understood from that perspective. However, it takes on a secondary role. The primary thing about the structure is that you should talk about the elements, the various elements of the poem, as to how they are structured, as to how they are built, which part comes first and which part comes second, what is the organic, is there any organic um, movement, is there any organic connection between the various parts of the poem, or like Kubla Khan, if you have read Kubla Khan, the parts are discrete, the parts are not connected with each other. That can also happen. So this is the structure that I wanted you to talk about in the critical appreciation. Then I think we might talk about, we might write down the substance of the poem, like a short summary, maybe even a précis, because you have like word limits, so you cannot go on writing about the poem. Just the substance, just the moot point of the poem, whatever the poem is actually trying to say, the substance, nirjash jetake bole bangla. Then we can talk about figures of speech used in the poem. Figures of speech used in the poem, rhetorical devices, literary devices, and what do they do? It's not just enough. I mean, if it had been graduation, maybe you would have had gotten away with just mentioning that, you know, there are these figures of speech here. But in MA, you need to say why this figure of speech has been used. What is the purpose of this figure of speech, of this rhetorical device or this literary device, and what does it do to the poem? How does it help in the development of the poem? Does it hamper or does it help? Like all figures of speech, if there are too many figures of speech, the meaning might become ambiguous, the meaning might become muddled. Too less, it becomes rather a kind of a, you know, dry prose exercise rather than a poem, because a poem is made poem by the turns of phrases that a poet usually uses. Next, I think, is the rhyme scheme. The rhyme scheme could be blank verse, as in modern poetry, and how does it help the poem? Would rhyme help? Would rhythm? Would rhyme help the poem understand, to be understood better? Or you might think that no, this blank verse is actually creating a trouble, or this rhyming lines is actually creating a trouble, so on and so forth. You can talk about these things. Okay, so that's the eighth point or eighth feature of a critical appreciation. And ultimately you can talk about your own impressions about the poem. In this, you can be very free, like free in the sense that you can say that, okay, this poem is really relevant for our present situation because we are undergoing similar crisis, or this poem is not very useful for your spiritual upliftment, or you feel depressed after reading the poem, so on and so forth. You can be yourself at the end of the critical appreciation, because the examiner might want to know through the critical appreciation as to what you feel about the poem. Okay. You can also talk about some historical events that have been mentioned in the poem. In that could go in the introduction, because the introduction will set the tone of the entire answer. Or you can go to the conclusion, and you can say that, you know, these points make the poem really a great poem, and this reflects the age of the um, this poem is reflective of the age in which it was written, which is actually good. Um, so this is how I would have had gone about writing a critical appreciation, and you can repeat this structure for any for attempting critical appreciation of any poem whatsoever. Okay. I think I found it in a book. I can't remember the name of the author, but I found it in a book as to how to write a critical appreciation, and there could be like hundreds of books on this issue, but this is one of the structures in which you can create. I mean, a structure always helps us to attempt an answer, attempt a topic. Okay. So now let's go into the text itself. The Hollow Men. Mitza Coots, he dead. A penny for the old guy. Now, you might know that Mitza Coots is from the novel Heart of Darkness, written by Joseph Conrad, and Coots was kind of the antagonist in the novel, but he was not really the antagonist, and he was the one for whom Marlowe, one of the narrators of the story, if not the hero, had gone deep into Africa, the heart of darkness as such. And however, he could not save Mr. Coots actually. And this is the way in which an African child comes up running and informs the party from England that Mr. Coots is dead. So, I mean, the Mr. has been misspelled deliberately as Mitza. This is how the Africans might pronounce Mr. I mean, some Africans might pronounce Mr. But this epigraph has another part, a penny for the old guy. Now, can somebody tell me what is the allusion of this line, a penny for the old guy? This has been discussed a number of times, I guess, in association with other texts that you have read earlier, especially if you have read what's that novel, Thomas Hardy's Return of the Native. Okay. Yes, anyone? Anyone would like to comment on why, from where this allusion has been taken? Penny for the old guy. Well, it is actually
Is this an allusion to gunpowder plot?
Yes, the allusion is to the gunpowder plot, and Guy Fawkes is the penny, and people celebrate this incident that happened way back in the 17th century in England. I think it was 1672 or something, and Guy Fawkes wanted to blow up some parliamentarians, and he was caught. And well, the day, I think, is 5th November or something, on which this Guy Fawkes Day is celebrated, and bonfires are lit on that day. And I think there is an adage, or I think there is a phrase where we say that we should give a penny for the old guy, like Guy Fawkes. Okay. And the effigies of Guy Fawkes is burnt on that day, and effigies are stuffed with hay. Google captions is saying hay, but actually it should be Hay, hay. So Okay. Anyway, um, so death, hay, again, gunpowder plot. These things have a resonance within the poem, which we will find by and by. Okay. We are the hollow men, we are the stuffed men. You see, stuffed. So Guy Fawkes, or the effigies of Guy Fawkes, which were burnt or which are burnt in the bonfires on the Guy Fawkes Day. Strange that Guy Fawkes, who is or was a criminal, or was supposed to be a criminal because he wanted to kill the king, or maybe the king, it is his day which is celebrated. Like, it's celebrating a villain in our Indian mythology, maybe. In some cultures, Ravun is worshipped, but that's a different issue altogether. Anyway, so we are the hollow men. Mr. Coots, sorry, when he went to Africa, he was also rendered hollow under the evil influence of Africa itself. As if Mr. Coots was never a evil himself, he became an evil. He turned towards evil ways the day he landed on Africa. That is the colonial narrative, and he was sucked hollow by Africa. And stuffed men is a reference to the effigy of Guy Fawkes. So we are the hollow men, we are the stuffed men. Now this is a very direct reference to the existential situation in which we modern people find ourselves in. We are hollow men, we are stuffed men. We do not have any life, we do not have any vitality, we are bereft of any energy, we are just mannequins, we are just dolls. We do not have much substance inside us. Leaning together, headpiece filled with straw. Since we do not have any life, since we do not have any vitality, since our hearts do not beat, we are just leaning together. Our headpiece is filled with straw. মাথায় ভুসি ভর্তি, স্ট্র দিয়ে তৈরি আমাদের মাথাগুলো। আমাদের মাথায় বুদ্ধির জায়গায় ভুসি আছে। আমরা বলি না মাথায় ভুসি ভুসি ভরা রয়েছে ইত্যাদি, বোকা এরকম। Here it refers to the sense of dryness, the sense of the lack of intellectual vigor in the minds of the people. Eliot always lamented that, as modern people, we do not have the intellectual vigor that maybe Renaissance people had. Maybe he wanted to be a Renaissance man, and he wanted to be born in the Renaissance period where new discoveries were being made every day, and the world was progressing like in leaps and bounds. And Eliot has a very low view. Eliot has a very reserved view about the modern age, and he lamented the fragmentariness, he lamented the lack of luster and the lack of life in the modern world, and hence he says that our headpiece, our heads are filled with straw. Alas, our dried voices, when we whisper together, are quiet and meaningless. Our voices have dried up, and when we whisper together, these whispers are quiet, but more importantly, they are meaningless. Modern poetry, when we read it first, if you are encountering hollow men for the first time, you might tell yourself that what does all this mean? This is meaningless. And why are we even reading this poem? So and talking about meaningless poems, I do not want to direct your attention to something else, but I think some of you are already giggling regarding the meaninglessness in poetry. I never said this. Okay, so meaninglessness is something that is of importance, that is of.
স্যার,
Yes.
সরি টু ডিস্টার্ব ইউ।
Hmm.
বলছিলাম যে আমাদের কি এরকম ভাবে অনলাইনেই হবে, মানে আগামী যে ক্লাসগুলো?
আহ, সেটা আমি বলতে পারছি না, মানে আই এম নট শিওর, মানে আমি ম্যাডাম, মানে শুক্লা ম্যাডামকে জিজ্ঞেস করি যে সোমবার ক্লাস হবে কিনা, তো উনি আমাকে
আচ্ছা।
আজকের দিনটা অবধিও মানে অনলাইনেই বললেন আর কি।
আসলে কেন বলছিলাম, মানে
হুম
এটা একটা এত সুন্দর কবিতা,
হুম
এতটাই সুন্দর কবিতা, মানে জীবন, একটা মানুষের জীবন পাল্টে দেওয়ার মতো কবিতা। তো আমি মানে অনলাইনে কি হয়, এই এতক্ষণে আমার আগে আমি ব্যস্ত ছিলাম, আমি ঢুকতে দেরি হয়ে গেল, তারপর অনেক সময় আমি শুনতেও পাইনি ঠিক করে। মানে আমি মিসই করতে চাইছি না এই কবিতার বিষয়গুলো এক এক ফোঁটাও।
আহ, এখানে দুটো জিনিস বলি, একটা প্র্যাকটিক্যাল আর একটা একটুখানি সেলফ ডেপ্রিসিয়েটরি। সেটা হচ্ছে যে আমি কতটা জাস্টিস করতে পারবো এই মহান কবিতাটার সাথে আমি নিজেও জানি না, আই উইল ট্রাই মাই বেস্ট। দ্বিতীয়ত হচ্ছে যে এই পুরো জিনিসটাই রেকর্ড হচ্ছে, তো তুমি এটাকে পরেও শুনতে পারো যদি চাও।
ও রেকর্ড করছেন, তাহলে তো ভালো।
হ্যাঁ, আমি তো প্রত্যেকটাই রেকর্ড করি, তোমাদেরকে আমি তো গ্রুপেও দিয়েও দিই।
হ্যাঁ, না আমি ক্লাসরুমে দেখেছি, ক্লাসরুমে আমি
হ্যাঁ,
ওখান থেকে পেয়েছিলাম, মানে এটা যে রেকর্ড হচ্ছে আমি জানতাম না।
না প্রত্যেকটাই রেকর্ড করি, এবং রেকর্ডিংটা যেটা হয় সেটা নেট বেসড হয় না, মানে ইন্টারনেটের দাস নয় রেকর্ডিংটা, ওটা আমার কম্পিউটারের সিস্টেমে আমি করি, তো সেক্ষেত্রে আমার কথাগুলো অ্যাটলিস্ট মানে আমার মনে হয় ক্লিয়ারলি রেকর্ডেড হয়। যদি
হ্যাঁ, বুঝতে পেরেছি। মানে
হ্যাঁ,
এখন মানে রেকর্ড হলে, মানে গুগল মিটের নর্মাল রেকর্ড হলে এখানে রেকর্ড বলে দেখায়, এখানে সেটা দেখাচ্ছে না।
না না, মানে এটা আমি স্ক্রিন রেকর্ডার দিয়ে রেকর্ড করছি, এটা গুগল মিটের, ওটা তো টাকা লাগে, আর আমি তো খুব কিপটে মানুষ,
ও আচ্ছা।
তাই জন্য আমি ওটাকে কিনতে আমার মানে ক্ষমতায় কুলোবে না আর কি, আমার মানে গুগল মিটের ওই জিনিসটাকে কেনা আর কি, ঠিক আছে। So that's why it is being recorded with permission from the college authorities, and it is uploaded in the YouTube, and then the link is given to the Google Classroom. So it's always there, you can come back to it. And so sorry for that, মানে অনলাইনের ব্যাপারটা আমি মানে আমার আমি কোনো প্রেফারেন্স নেই যে অনলাইন হবে না অফলাইন হবে। তো সেটা হয়তো নেক্সট ক্লাসটা মেবি আই ডোন্ট নো যে কি ম্যাডাম যেটা বলবেন আর কি সেটা। যাই হোক, তো হ্যাঁ কোথায় ছিলাম, মিনিংলেস, মানে মডার্ন যে সোসাইটিটা, মডার্ন যে লাইফটা, অনেক সময় আমাদের নিজেদেরও মনে সবই তো মিনিংলেস। মানে দেখা গেল অনলাইন পরীক্ষা হলো, তো অনলাইন পরীক্ষা যদি হয় তাহলে এত পড়াশোনা করলাম কেন, মিনিংলেস। বা অনেক সময় তোমাদের মনে হয় যে এই পিসি স্যার বকছেন, কি মানে কিসের কি হচ্ছে, কোনোই মাথা মুন্ডু নেই, মিনিংলেস। সামটাইমস our relationships are found to be meaningless because we do a lot, say for a person, and then that person leaves us, and then we say, oh, whatever we have done is like meaningless. Our friendship sometimes comes to have no meaning. So in the modern life, in the modern society, various things have become meaningless, and various things do not hold any kind of uh, meaning, like meaning in the traditional sense of the word, that what is next, what can we do next, what is the good thing, what is the value of all this. When we start thinking in these lines, we get depressed because we understand that in the modern scenario nothing makes sense, or it didn't make sense for a very sensitive man like Eliot. And if we if we consider our lives in the modern scenario deeply, we might understand that there is nothing to life. We are waking up, we are having our food, we are studying, or we are teaching, or pretending to do both. Then we are watching TV, and then we are scrolling through Facebook posts, and then we are replying to messages, and then we sleep and dream about exotic vacations in, I don't know, Switzerland. But if we see it in this way, our mundane routine does not really have any meaning. And Eliot had understood that this world, this entire um, universe is meaningless, because there's no logic in the universe. Like, universe is random. Our lives are also random, according to the modern way of according to the modern philosophy, according to the modern outlook, according to the modernist outlook. This is our life. This is our life. Okay. As wind in dry grass, or rat's feet over broken glass in our dry cellar. Dry, dry, dry. The juice of life is missing. Like Rahul Gandhi is saying, maza aa gaya. You know, that maza, that joy, that that liquid joy. I mean, if you can imagine joy to be liquid, then our lives, our universes, our world, our mind, our spirit, our heart is bereft of this joy, and hence it is dry. Shukno jibon, shushko. And I personally will not mind a very dry weather, because I am like sweating like a pig. I don't know, I've never seen a pig sweat, but I'm sweating like a pig. And I would rather have it dry heat rather than, humid heat. But dry for dry in the spiritual sense is very damning. If you are spiritually, if you are intellectually, if you are dry from within, you have no spiritual, intellectual, emotional vitality, then your life is definitely like a straw. It's like sucked dry. And what has sucked us dry? Our cares, our anxieties, daily serials, fake news, expectations, examinations, online classes, boring lectures, boring books. They are sucking our life dry. Now, let me warn you that the way I am presenting the poem, it might make you depressed. So don't be depressed. This is just a poem. Our lives are not meaningless. We can make a difference. I mean, we can help somebody do something in life. Like, we are not straw men. We are not hollow men. But sometimes in our lives we go through a rough patch where we feel that we are helpless, where we feel that we are, there's no good that can come out of our lives, and we should commit suicide. Recently there's a spate of suicides among the wannabe models They undergo a lot of pressure, they have to deal with a lot of pressure, and that sucks their lives dry, and they just commit suicide. So Eliot might have been going through a bout of depression. He went through a number of depressive episodes in his life, and he might be writing in depression. And depression is sometimes contagious. So he's comparing the whisper of the dried voices with wind in the dry grass. This is an extended simile, talking in terms of critical appreciation now. In this extended simile, there are a number of comparisons with the human condition in the modern world. And the wind, when the wind goes through the dry grass, it makes a noise, like a kind of a rustling noise, low rustling noise, sound. Or rat's feet over broken glass. So the sound made by rat's feet when they scurry over broken glass. Now, broken, meaningless, quiet, whisper, dried, dry, hollow, stuffed, straw. These are the words that are signposts of depression, signposts of modern anxiety, signposts of modern hopelessness and fatigue. So there are broken glasses in the dry cellar, dry grass, dry cellar, and when the rats are moving over it, they are making this dry noise, they are making this meaningless noise. I mean, what does the sound of the what does the rustling sound of the wind over the dry grass or the scurrying feet of the rat on broken glass actually mean? Do they communicate with us? What do you think? People in the meeting, do you think these things?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The technique he uses is objective correlative. Through the
Technique
images, he is
okay.
making us relate to some emotions.
Objective correlative, you say. So he is deliberately using these objects to create certain emotions in our minds.
I think the prime motive is to evoke some emotions or to get us acquainted with the main themes of the poetry.
So what is the main theme of the poem?
Futility of existence. Uh, I haven't read it yet, but first few lines give me an essence of futility,
Okay.
existential pang.
Yep. Existential pangs of living, loss of vitality in life, paradise lost, in the grander scale, you can say.
Yes, yes.
Because Eliot was very religious. Like, he declared somewhere, I don't exactly remember which place, he said these lines, that I am a classicist by style, I am a Catholic by religion, and then he became Anglican. Anyway, so he remained within Christianity anyway, and I'm an anti-romantic by my temperament. He said something like that. So yeah.
পোয়েমের মানে একটা জিনিস দেখতে পাওয়া যাচ্ছে যে একটা মানে the theme of the poem is being driven by the sudden epiphany, ঠিক আছে?
Epiphany.
একটা সাংঘাতিক রিয়েলাইজেশন যেটা মডার্ন এজে হয়েছে।
Okay. Can you elaborate on this concept of epiphany in this poem?
না, এটা কেন বললাম, কেননা পোয়েমের এন্ডে গিয়ে একটা দুটো লাইন আছে, বলছে দিস ইজ, মানে এটা আমার প্রিয় লাইন,
হুম
সবারই প্রিয় লাইন,
হুম
বহু জায়গায় লিখিও, দিস ইজ দ্য ওয়ে দ্য ওয়ার্ল্ড এন্ডস, নট উইথ আ ব্যাং বাট আ উইম্পার।
হুম
ওটা দেখে মনে হয়েছে।
ওকে, বাট সেটাকে এপিফেনি বলছো, না যেটা আমরা এখন যেটুকু লাইনটা আমরা পড়লাম সেখানে কোনো এপিফেনি আছে?
So I have a question
শুরু থেকেই আছে।
regarding Epiphany. Uh,
Okay, wait,
Hello.
Ankon, let Devaprasad finish and then we will come to your question, okay?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Hmm.
Go ahead.
Yes, Devaprasad, continue.
শুরু থেকেই আছে, প্রথম লাইন থেকেই তো বলছে উই আর হলো ম্যান।
Mm-hmm.
হলো ম্যান কথাটা থেকেই বলছে, যেমনি প্রেলিউডসে বলেছিল ডার্ক, কি বার্নড আউট এন্ডস অফ স্মোকি ডেজ।
Hmm.
তো ওটা প্রথম থেকেই আছে, ওই যে রিয়ালাইজ করতে পেরেছে যে আর কিছু হবে না, হওয়ার কথাও নয়।
Okay.
তারপর ওই একটা আমাদের গ্রাজুয়েশনে একটা ইয়ে ছিল, ড্রামা ছিল,
Mm-hmm.
জিমি ক্যারেক্টার ছিল, ড্রামাটার নাম কি ছিল?
Look back in anger.
লুক ব্যাক ইন অ্যাঙ্গার, হ্যাঁ।
Hmm.
লুক ব্যাক ইন অ্যাঙ্গারের সেই অ্যাংরি ইয়াং ম্যানের যে কনসেপ্টে
Hmm.
লিখেছে, তো এই বিষয়টা এটা সব জায়গাতেই সর্বত্র ছিল আর কি। আর এই কবিতাটায় তো ভালো করেই আছে।
Hmm. Okay, now Ankon, you have a question from Epiphany. Shoot.
Is Epiphany mainly a prosaic device? This was my question.
Prosaic
First,
device. Like
yes,
used in prose.
yes, sir. Prose or drama, because I haven't encountered much epiphanies in poetry. I mean, direct epiphanies.
Um, Epiphany has nothing to do with prose or poetry. As Devaprasad pointed out, that epiphany is a moment of sudden realization, but realization of what, Devaprasad? It's sudden, it's a realization, but a realization of what?
রিয়েলাইজেশন অফ নাথিংনেস, মিনিংলেসনেস। যেটা ম্যাকবেথের, মানে আর্লি মডার্ন, যেহেতু এলিজাবেথেন এজটা,
Mm-hmm.
আর্লি মডার্নসে মানুষ ওখানে হিউম্যানিজমের কনসেপ্টে, মানে যেটা জিওভানি বোকাচিওর পর থেকে শুরু হয়েছে,
Mm-hmm.
মানুষ মানুষকে বুঝতে শিখেছে, অনেক বেশি এনলাইটেনমেন্ট হয়েছে।
Hmm.
তো ওই সময়কার ম্যাক্সিমাম মানে নাটক বা যে কোনো ধরনের ফর্ম অফ সাহিত্যের মধ্যে কিন্তু এপিফ্যানিটা ভালো করে রয়েছে। হ্যামলেটের ক্ষেত্রেও রয়েছে, আমরা পড়েছি। ম্যাকবেথের ক্ষেত্রে তো সাংঘাতিকভাবেই রয়েছে, যে জীবনে
Hmm.
এমন কর্মকাণ্ড করে বসলাম, শেষে গিয়ে বুঝতে পারছি জীবনটা তাহলে কি হইলো আর কি, মানে কিছুই হইলো না।
তাহলে তোমার ড্রামার ক্ষেত্রে যদি বলো, যেটা অঙ্কন বলতে চাইছে, বা পোয়েট্রির ক্ষেত্রেও সেটা, মানে এনশিয়েন্ট গ্রিসে পোয়েট্রি আর ড্রামা তো কিছু আলাদা ছিল না, তো অ্যানাক্রোনাসিস আর তাহলে এপিফেনির মধ্যে কি তফাৎ থাকলো?
অ্যানাগনোলিসিস ইজ ডিফাইন্ড, আর এটা হচ্ছে গিয়ে একটা মানে লিটারেরি টুল। আর এপিফেনির বিষয়টা হচ্ছে গিয়ে অ্যানাগনোলিসিস তো মানে ঠিক আছে আছে, এপিফেনিটা হচ্ছে ভাবটা, অ্যানাগনোলিসিস হচ্ছে ওটার ডেফিনেশনটা।
মানে অ্যানাক্রোনাসিস, অ্যাজ ফার অ্যাজ আই নো, ইজ দ্য realization or the discovery of whatever good or bad you have done.
হ্যাঁ, হ্যাঁ, মানে কিন্তু বিষয়টা কি, অ্যানাগনোলিসিস লিড করছে গিয়ে আমার ওই রিভার্সাল অফ ফরচুনে গিয়ে, পেরিপ্যাটায়া খুব সম্ভবত।
হুম হুম
তো ওটা যেহেতু একটা স্ট্রাকচারের মধ্যে পড়ে যাচ্ছে, মানে সেই কারণে ওটা একটাকে লিড করছে বা ওটাকে ফলো করছে। এপিফানির বিষয়টা হচ্ছে মানে যেমন, এটাকে কি করে বোঝাই আমি, মানে এই ম্যাকবেথ রক্ত হাতে দেখতে পেয়ে গেল,
হুম
ঠিক আছে, মাথা খারাপ হয়ে গেল।
হুম
তো ওর হঠাৎ রিয়েলাইজেশন হলো। বা যেমন হচ্ছে গিয়ে আম, ব্যাংকোর অ্যাক্ট 3 সিন 1-এ ব্যাংকোর যে সলিডিটিটা ছিল ম্যাকবেথের করোনেশনের সময়,
হুম
ওটাও কাইন্ড অফ এপিফেনি ছিল।
হ্যালুসিনেশন টাকে তুমি এপিফেনি বলছো, তাই তো?
হ্যালুসিনেশন তো এপিফানিটাকে লিড করে এনেছে, মানে সবই হয়েছে ওই জায়গায় চাপ খেয়েছে বলে।
হুম।
পরে গিয়ে রিয়েলাইজ করতে পেরেছে যে মানে জীবনে কি আর করলাম তাহলে।
Okay, so dictionary wise there are two definitions of epiphany that I can see right now. One is the manifestation of Christ to the Gentiles as represented by the Magi. So there is a religious angle to epiphany. Okay. However, what Devaprasad says is a moment of sudden and great revelation or realization. So, in that sense, what Devaprasad is saying is that T.S. Eliot had this moment of great revelation and realization that, okay, we are hollow men and we are stuffed men. Is that what you're trying to say, Devaprasad? You there? Oh. Okay, sorry, I lost connection for a while. Um, so I think. Um, Sorry, I lost connection for a while, and I was trying to say that there are these various definitions of epiphany, and the epiphany needs to be sudden and needs to be great. When we realize that we have done nothing with our lives, then it could be a moment of negative epiphany, we can say, because epiphany is usually associated with the the revelation of Christ to us, the revelation of God to us, that okay, we are in the presence of God. But the use of epiphany, the word epiphany, has to be used in Holomen. This makes a great sense because Eliot having a history of being a devout Christian, does not realize that there is a God or God has come to him, but he realizes sadly that there is no God. I mean, this is also a revelation this is also a great moment of realization for the Christian or the uh, God-minded people or God-fearing people. Okay, there is no God. Isn't that a revelation in itself? Yes, it is. So I agree with Devaprasad when he says that there are epiphanies throughout the poem, and these are not statements but epiphanies. This is how you sublimate an experience by calling it not discovery, not realization, not statements, but actually an epiphany. Fine, let's move on. Shape without form, shade without color, paralyzed force, gesture without motion. Can somebody point out the obvious figures of speech in this? And why are they utilized here? And what good or bad are they doing to the poem?
Oxymoron.
Where?
Ox- is oxymoron used here?
Where? With which line? Which
Shade,
words?
shape without form. Shade
For
without
an
form.
oxymoron to be an oxymoron, you need to place two diametrically opposite or two antithetical words together.
Paralyzed force.
Paralyzed
Paralyzed
force. Yeah,
force,
paralyzed
yes.
force.
Paralyzed force is a brilliant oxymoron. I mean, I was like, the first day I read this poem, read this line, I was like, wow. I mean, T.S. Eliot rocks. That kind of, you know, thing came into my mind, like, that I would follow this man because of these two words, paralyzed force. A force that is paralyzed, how can that be? How can force be paralyzed? And if it is paralyzed, then how come it is a force? Okay, so paralyzed force, shape without form. uh,
এটা দেখে
hmm,
সালভাদর দালির একটা ছবি মনে পড়ে গেল, এই
hmm,
মেল্টিং ওয়াচ বলে একটা ছিল।
hmm. Okay, so yeah, so if we come back here, um, shape without form, shade without color, paralyzed force, gesture without motion. Now, these two lines, these, just give me a minute. Okay, so these two lines, these these few words actually, shape, form, shade, color, paralyzed force, gesture, motion. I believe T.S. Eliot is able to sum up the entire modern experience in these two lines. So if ever anybody asks you what is modernism all about, what is modernity all about, you can simply say this, and say it with a kind of a sad gesture, not without motion, because we cannot do a gesture without motion. With an attitude, you can say, uh, that modern life is shape without form, shade without color, it's a paralyzed force, it's a gesture without motion. It reminds me of the poem, another poem by T.S. Eliot, Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, where Prufrock, being a modern man, says that should I go, should I not go, should I do it or not, should I disturb the universe? And what was he going to do? He was not going to kill his uncle, like Hamlet. He was going to come down the stairs. He was not even sure if he would come down the stairs or not. So this is the dilemma. This is the modern life. This is where the modern person is fixated or fixed. We are always unsure of what to do. Like many of you might be unsure as to, okay, what can I do after my masters? Where should I go? What should be my purpose? Where is my destiny? Okay, so this is modern life, and this is our dilemma. This is our predicament. Those who have crossed with direct eyes to death's other kingdom remembers us, if at all, not as lost violent souls, but only as the hollow men, the stuffed men. Those who have crossed with direct eyes, those who are dead, they have crossed to the death's other kingdom. What is the meaning of this death's other kingdom? That is, death has like two kingdoms. What? And the dead have crossed to the death's other kingdom. What is death's first kingdom? Anyone? Anushri, you want to say something? Ankita? What is the first kingdom of death? Anybody?
এখানে কি কোনো খ্রিশ্চান অ্যাসপেক্টে বলা হচ্ছে?
যদি খ্রিশ্চান অ্যাসপেক্টেই হয় তাহলে ডেথ
তাহলে তো গলগোথা মনে হচ্ছে।
Golgotha. Why is Golgotha coming here? Why are you talking about Golgotha? What is the meaning of this Golgotha? Why are you talking about Golgotha? Tell me more about Golgotha.
গলগোথায় ক্রুসিফিকেশন হয়েছিল
Whose?
জিসাসের।
Okay. And?
তাদের ছাড়াও ওখানে ক্রুসিফিকেশন হতো।
Okay, so Golgotha was a place where the crucifixions used to take place. So how is that death's first king? হ্যাঁ বলো। হ্যাঁ কি আবার বলো?
প্যান্ডিমোনিয়াম কি বোঝাচ্ছে?
Pandemonium.
প্যান্ডিমোনিয়াম কি বোঝাচ্ছে?
Like the pandemonium in hell.
হ্যাঁ,
ওটা ফার্স্ট কিংডম ডেথের।
ওটা সেটান বানিয়েছে।
ওটা আদার কিংডম হলো। বাট হোয়াট ইজ দ্য ফার্স্ট কিংডম দেন? মানে আদারের সেলফ কিংডমটা তাহলে কোনটা? আদার কিংডম মানে আর একটা কিংডম ওর আছে। আদার কিংডমে যারা মরে যাচ্ছে তারা চলে যাচ্ছে, কিন্তু ডেথের আর একটা কিংডম কোনটা? নট গলগথা। গলগথা ইজ আ প্লেস আই থিঙ্ক।
বিষয়টাকে যদি এরকম ভাবে ভাবি, অঙ্কন বলছিল কিছুক্ষণ আগে যে এপিফানি কথা উঠেছিল। এপিফানিটা হচ্ছে গিয়ে সাডেন রিয়েলাইজেশন বা রেভেলেশন হলো। কিন্তু এপিফানিটা হতে গেলে তার আগে একটা স্ট্রাকচারাল একটা মানে বিল্ড আপ হতে হবে, এবং ওটা মেনলি ছোট গল্পের মধ্যেই হয়, কিন্তু ওটার ভাবটা আমরা অন্যান্য ফর্ম অফ লিটারেচারও পেতে পারি। এবার প্রথমে সভ্যতা থেকে শুরু করে মানে টি.এস. এলিয়ট যে সময়ে কবিতাটা লিখছে সেটা হচ্ছে মডার্ন এজ। আর মডার্ন এজে গিয়ে সবকিছু ন্যাংটো হয়ে গেছে, সেটা আগেই হয়েছিল, কিন্তু মডার্ন এজে গিয়ে সবকিছু মানে ন্যাংটো হয়ে গেছে বলে আরো বেশি করে পুরনো যে ভালো জীবনটা ছিল সেটা যেন আরো বেশি মন করে আর কি, মানে বিমন। আর যদি বলে থাকি এরকম যে যেমন হচ্ছে আর্লি মডার্নসের পর থেকেই যেহেতু হিউম্যানিজমের কনসেপ্টটা সাংঘাতিকভাবে এসছে, এবং মানে ডিসকভারিজও অনেক বেশি, এনলাইটেনমেন্ট এবং এনরিচমেন্টই কিন্তু শেষমেশ মানুষকে এক দুঃখের মায়াজালে নিয়ে যায়। তো যেমনি ভাবে এই কনসেপ্টটা আসছে যে এখানে বলছে টি.এস. এলিয়ট যে দুখানা মানে মৃত্যুর আর কি প্লেস, দুটো ডেড কিংডমের কথা বলছে। একটা হতে পারে যে প্রথমে যে ডেড কিংডম সেখানে হচ্ছে জিসাসের আমি ওই জন্য বললাম গল্পের কথা, কেননা প্রথমে আমাদের ওই একটা হচ্ছে রোমান ক্যাথলিক চার্চ ভেঙেছিল, তার আগে যখন জিসাসের ক্রুসিফিকশন হয়েছিল সেটাকে একটা মানে ডুমস ডে হিসেবে ধরে ফেলা হয়েছিল, কিন্তু যদিও তারপরে খ্রিস্টানিটির উদ্ভব সাংঘাতিকভাবে ঘটে। তো ওটাকে যদি নর্মালি আমি ভাবি যে প্রথম ডেড কিংডম, সেকেন্ড ডেড কিংডম হবে হচ্ছে কি জিসাসের মৃত্যুর পরে মানুষ সভ্যতার ক্রমশ মানে কি বলবো ডিক্লাইন হয়েছে সাংঘাতিকভাবে। তো সেটা গিয়ে পুরোপুরি তার রিয়েলাইজেশনটা আসছে মডার্ন এজে গিয়ে, তাহলে সে ওটাকে সেকেন্ড হিসেবে ধরা যেতে পারে।
Anything else? Anyone who might think about something else? The answer is very simple. It's not uh,
Is he referring to metaphorical death?
of course death can be
Death of an
metaphorical also.
artist
Death of an artist? How? What?
through his intellectual decline. I mean, when he ceases to create, it's his metaphorical death as an artist. Maybe he's referring to that.
uh, okay, let me come to this line again. Those who have crossed with direct eyes to death's other kingdom, যারা মৃত্যুর আর একটি রাজত্ব, রাজ্য বা এখতিয়ারের মধ্যে চলে গেছে, এইটা বলতে চাইছে। তারপরে বলছে রিমেম্বার আস হ্যান ত্যান হ্যান ত্যান। কিন্তু আমি আটকে আছি এই জায়গাটাতে যে ডেথের আদার কিংডম কেন বলছে। ডেথের কিংডম হবে মানে মরে গেছে, তো নরকে চলে গেছে বা স্বর্গে চলে গেছে, হোয়াটএভার, মানে মরে গেছে আর কি। বাট what is this other? This other is creating a kind of a confusion for me, that why other kingdom? I mean, it could have been simply, death's kingdom, but other শব্দটাকে দিয়ে যে আবার বলছি শব্দ other, the choice of word other is creating a prism of meanings coming out from which could have been a very simple line. আমার ধারণা, I think, and this is entirely the way I look at it, and there could be books which could support me and there could be books which will not support me. I think the other is this world, earth, ইহলোক, এটাকে মৃত্যুলোকও তো বলে। This world is also death's kingdom, and there is a proper death kingdom also. এখানেও যে আমরা বেঁচে আছি তা তো নয়, কারণ আমরা তো তাহলে আমরা তো স্টাফড মেন, হলো মেন, আমরা তো এখানেও মৃত। আর আমরা মানে আমাদের বাড়ি করে দেওয়ার পরে বা পুড়িয়ে দেওয়ার পরে বা হোয়াট এভার আমাদের যা যা রিচুয়ালস আছে সেগুলো করে দেওয়ার পরে আমরা টেকনিক্যালি, আমরা স্পিরিচুয়ালি, আমরা অ্যাকর্ডিং টু বাইবেল, অ্যাকর্ডিং টু হোয়াট এভার রিলিজিয়াস ডকুমেন্টস দেয়ার আর, we transcend, we are transferred from this realm to the realm of death. But Eliot is trying to say that this world, this realm, this place is no less death's kingdom. Does that make sense for you guys? What do you think? Yes, no, maybe? Since we are spiritless, since we are bereft of any vigorousness, vitality, energy, so hence we are dead, right? Hence we do not have any life. We are simply dead, just waiting for our burial. So when the people really pass, when they die and go to death's other kingdom, they might remember us, they remember us, if at all. They might not remember us, because according to the Greek mythology, if you cross the Lethe river, then you forget everything, because it is the river of forgetfulness, so on and so forth. But if they remember us, then they will not remember us as lost, violent souls, but only as the hollow men, the stuffed men. We are so minuscule, we are so subservient, we are so small, we are so insignificant. Of course, our world cannot end with a bang. It can only end with a whimper. Because we are hollow men, we are stuffed men. What about the women? I don't know. He doesn't really mention that. But we can't be even violent. I mean, at least violence would have had created some flutter. Violence would have had created some kind of turbulence. Could have had done it, but um, we were never violent souls. We are not even lost souls. Can somebody point out why can't we be even lost souls? We can be lost souls, right? Why can't we be lost souls? I mean, what আমরা লস্ট সোলও নই, সেটা কেন নয়? আমাদের সোলটা লস্ট হতে পারে না কেন?
কারণ আমাদের মধ্যে সোলই নেই।
রাইট, প্রথম তো তাই, আমাদের তো সোলই নেই, তাহলে লস্ট কি হবে? আমরা তো স্টাফড মেন, আমরা তো হলো মেন। দ্বিতীয়ত আরো ট্রিমেন্ডাস সেটা হচ্ছে যে আমাদের তো কোনো মোশন নেই, আমরা তো প্যারালাইজড ফোর্স। যাব কোথায়? কোথাও লস্ট হতে গেলে তো কোথাও যেতে হয়, মানে তুমি তো বাড়িতে বসে থেকে তো আর হারিয়ে যেতে পারো না, মানে not geographically, like not magnitudinally. You cannot be lost sitting at one place for the rest of your life, can you? For losing your way you need to walk away. We people, modern people who are doing online classes, do not walk, do not go, do not move. So then how can we lose? How can we lose our way? Okay, so sinister things coming out from even the first part of the poem. Let's go into the second part, and this is the structure thing. Gradually we are entering into a world, into a vortex of depression. Dark thoughts, philosophically dense clouds are covering our minds. Second part. Eyes I dare not meet in dreams, in death's dream kingdom. These do not appear. There the eyes are sunlit on a broken column. There is a tree swinging, and voices are in the winds singing, more distant and more solemn than a fading star. Eyes I dare not meet in dreams. He does not want to encounter eyes, a metonymy, a synecdoche maybe. He does not want to meet people in dreams. It's not the eyes that scare him. It's the person behind the eyes that scare him. And he does not want to dare meet people even in dreams. The modern condition is so bad, the modern situation is so ugly, that we don't even want to meet people in dreams, let alone in the real life, because the trolls in the internet bullies in our lives, or the real bullies in our real life, they make our life hell, and we come to hate people altogether. And we do not want to meet people. We do not want to meet people even in dreams, because that dream will then turn into a nightmare. But in death's dream kingdom, these do not appear. But once you are dead, but then just like the objective correlative thing that somebody brought out, I think it was who was it? Onkon. I want to bring out another idea of Eliot as a critic, Eliot as a theorist. It's that he said that poetry should not be the spontaneous overflow of emotions, rather it should be an escape from emotion. Escape from emotion. How is that idea imported here? Because in death's dream kingdom, these do not appear. So once you detach yourself from this world, when you disengage yourself from the maya of this world, and you attain death, which in many senses, is very different from nirvana, but still, T.S. Eliot had deep knowledge of Upanishads, and he was like really into Indian myth systems and theology. That makes our life difficult in order to understand his poetry, but it also adds rich images, rich ideas to think about. So in Death's dream kingdom, these do not appear. Who do not appear? What do not appear? The eyes. The eyes are the synecdoche for human beings. So the human beings do not appear over there. Personalities don't matter anymore. So in a sense, it's good that we are dead. We don't have to go through the daily bustle of life anymore. There, the eyes are sunlight on a broken column. Here, the eyes, the windows to the world, and in some mythologies, it is believed that the eyes are the door to a person's heart, a person's soul. If you look into the eyes of a person, then you look into the soul of that particular person. The eyes are compared with sunlight on a broken column. Just imagine the image here. Oh, one thing I forgot while I was talking about, these points, these structures of critical appreciation. One of them is the use of images. Of course, images are created with the help of words, but images can be discussed in detail and in isolation also. So here is a brilliant image. Eyes compared with sunlight on a broken column. Again broken. Column is a pillar, and if a pillar is broken,